Hello, hello.
What?
Okay, turn that off where I got it. All right. So that threw me off. I am down at my parents' because my mom needs a little bit of help with preparing for Christmas dinner. We're having Christmas at my mom's this year, which is different. Lots of different stuff this year. In that one that I'm thinking of right now is a subject of an entirely different thingamabob, because it's a whole conversation in and of itself. But what I am attempting to talk about here is I really want to plug this in, but it's going to start talking to me. Okay, it's reading USB. Here it goes. Hang on 1 second. Singer. Ooh, I have no idea if that actually got you guys. Anyway, last night before I came down to my parents, I was packing up my stuff and talking to my housemate, and she's really cool. I really enjoy talking to her. We have some nice it's been a long time since I've had a friend where I could well, that's not true. A girlfriend. My ex and I would sit and talk for hours and hours and hours too. But outside of a romantic relationship, it's been a long time since I've had like a girlfriend I could just sit down and chat with. So we were chatting and we're talking, and we were discussing emotional growth and what we do to get there and all this stuff. And at some point we started talking about identity and what makes up our identities. And we didn't really talk about why we're attached to them. But we're talking about how, being a smart kid, being good at school and being known for being intelligent was a big part of who I was as a younger person. And it's something that I miss. Ego. Hello, vanity. It's something I miss. Well, I guess it's just I've had opportunities to talk with actually a friend of mine, Dave Cordero, a couple of times, where we're both just stretching our brains and we're like, woo, this is fun. We're stretching our brains. So like just having like kind of intelligent, like on a different level kind of intelligent, because I'm surrounded by intelligent people. It's just a specific type of intelligence that I don't get to practice often, that I really happen to really enjoy. And I just went off. My ego just took me on a trip. That was a nice little ego trip for all of us, wasn't it? And then my husband and I were also talking about how art was such a part of my identity. And I was showing her some of my artwork that I had done. Like I had a couple of things up on Instagram, or I have a portfolio website at some point that I made at some point like years and years ago, and it's still up somewhere. And I was showing her work. And she's like, why don't you bring these back to the house and hang them up? She's like, you've had them hanging up before. I was like, well, no, not really. I never really hung this stuff up because I was never really allowed to at my parents' house. You know what I mean? That just sort of carried over to, I had some of my photography hanging up in my bedroom or whatever, but as I moved, and as an adult, I moved around so much, and I didn't really live in a lot of places where I could hang things up. Anyway, that's not here nor there. Anyway, we were talking about art, and I just kind of started picturing, what it felt like to draw and to paint, and how much I really loved it. Like at one point she's like, oh, I heard acrylics are hard to work with, and I was like, oh no, because I in my brain I remembered what it was like to mix the paint, and my whole body was just like, like it was like this weird sense of like a bunch of things just released in me just thinking about mixing paints. And like the same thing happened, to a degree, with a bunch of other things like sketching and painting and sculpting and like all the different arts I used to practice. And she's like, why don't you take time and practice this stuff if it's so important to you? She's like, look at your face. Like, look at you. I've never seen you look like that. Just thinking about doing this. And I'm just like, no, I just don't have the time and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what if you did though? And I'm like, I don't have the time. I've got to be working on my business. You know what I mean? Like, I'll feel guilty if I take any time, even just an hour. And I was like, you don't really get into a flow in an hour. You know what I mean? And then having to stop an hour in is just like torture. Cause I was like, you get lost in it for hours and hours and hours. It's not something you just do for an hour. She's like, well, what if you took a day every once in a while? And I'm like, no, I can't play. She's like, look, if it's this, like, she's like, the way your face looks just by thinking about it, she's like, if it's that much of an effect on you, don't you think if you did it, you might be able to focus better in other areas of your life? And I was like, okay, all right, I can accept that. That is something I can work with. So I was like, I will look for my art supplies at my parents, because they have a basement that I've stored a lot of stuff in. But like, when I put everything in there years ago now at this point, because I've been moving around so much and didn't have a lot of space where I could take things out. But I put all my stuff very carefully, stacked it all very carefully in a corner of their basement. And my father, being who he is, felt he needed to rearrange everything. It was very careful, and this is something I need to let go of. But I was very careful about like where the boxes were placed, what was placed on top of what, when I was going to need certain things so I could get certain things. Anyway, he in the ensuing years, and he has every right to mess around with stuff in his basement, so he completely undid what I did, and so now I just don't know where things are. And you know, I have to uncover a lot of it because it's got a lot of their stuff on top of it. So I was just kind of messing around and downstairs and trying to find things, and I couldn't find a lot of it. But none of my equipment, which is so upsetting. But then again, my paints at this point will probably be all dried up. Anyway, so I'm going to buy a sketch pad and some pencils, because the sketch pads are half off. And what I wanted to come on and talk about was just how weird it was to really stop and think about those things that I was very, very passionate about. And I clearly am still passionate about. I just haven't given a lot of thought to. And when I do think about them, like thinking about mixing paints, I know it's weird, but like something in my heart just like, it's like, it just kind of like cracks open. It's this weird, like, it was weird. It was a weird feeling. And like thinking about painting the canvas, and I mean, sketching, and I love shading and all this stuff. I've actually gotten this coloring book that's just like Musha paintings. And I've been using coloring pencils and just working a lot on shading, and that has been fun. So I need to get back to line drawing and sketching in general. So that's what I'm going to go do, and I'm really excited about it. I think that it might actually help me focus on the things that I need to focus on, because I get so scattered. Oh, and another thing, I got here and I got to my parents, and I was like, my hands are so dry. I need some hand lotion. I didn't bring any with me. I was like, Mom, do you have some hand lotion? She's like, yeah, okay. So we go into her bathroom, we open the cabinets looking for it, and there was like, I had like 2 or 3 options. I chose one, I put it on my hands, I smelled it, I was like, oh God, it's toxic, gross fragrance, but whatever. And she's like, oh, then we'll find another. And I'm like, Mom, this is fine, it's on my hand, it's fine. And she's like, no, we'll find other. And she just went like 5 minutes looking for, I'm like, it's already on my hands. Like, the smell will go away. I need to do other stuff. I'm not going to spend 10 minutes looking for a better lotion. And then she just continued on, like, looking for different hand lotion. And I'm just like, oh, this is where I get it. Like, this is where I get it from. Her doing something completely useless right now. Like, I chose, and it's also showing progress, and that's just another thing from last night that I found out. Showing progress. I was able to just, like, look, I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for the hand lotion. It's not that big a deal. I got some hand lotion on, fine, I'm going to do it. And then she goes off looking for more hand lotion because the one I got wasn't perfect. And it was just funny to watch, because it was also like, that's what I normally do. I go like, no, I made a choice. Choice means you cut off the other, it cuts off the other options, right? So I cut off the other options and I just went for that, and I got about doing the business that was actually important. And she was off doing, I was like, okay, well, that's where I get that, and I've made some progress on that. And another thing that I made progress on that I think was really interesting last night when I was talking to my housemate, I was discussing a fun adventure I went on with a different ex, not the most recent ex, the ex before that ex, and we had a lot of fun together. And that, anyway, he was a surgeon, and that meant that we were able to do some really fun stuff. We went to a lot of shows together, and a few weeks, like really a month and a half into our relationship, we went to Norway to see the Northern Lights for 5 days over New Year's. And one of the things we did was go up like out into the snow. We went dog sledding and we went snowmobiling, and it was so much fun. And I was just telling her about it, and I remember it really, really well, and it was so much fun. And she's like, it's really nice that you can just have that as a good memory now, because I used to be very, I wouldn't call it bitter, but I that was a relationship I clung on to for a very long time in my mind, just being upset and angry about, not angry, just upset about the fact that it ended, my hands in it, the end of it. And then what happened as an epilogue really bothered me too. Like really bothered me for a very long time. And a lot of my head chatter for years was taken up by thoughts about it. And it was really nice to have that memory and not even be like, ah! Or like, it was really nice just to have it as a good memory. And she's like, and she pointed it out. She's like, that's progress. And I'm like, oh, it's working. So that was really great. So I just want to report on that, because if we keep doing the work, we do progress. And even if we don't see it ourselves, other people can see it and point it out to us, which is fantastic. Yeah, for now, that's it. I just wanted to say those things and to point out that I can be grateful, because I'm grateful that I've done so much work and I've made so much progress. It's been very exciting. And, it's nice to see that the work that I'm putting in is paying off, and that I'm living a better life. My head's in a better place. My heart's in a better place. My everything is in a better place. And it's just getting, every day is getting better. So emotional work, it's worth it. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for my discovery of the things I needed to discover. I'm grateful for the community that I have that's supportive. I'm grateful for my brain, for being able to process the information and apply it. I'm grateful for Michael Singer, because without him, I'm grateful for Michael Shine, who is the one who introduced me to Michael Singer, and his wife introduced him. So I'm grateful to Brenda as well. Yeah, I'm pretty grateful for a lot of stuff, because my head is in a much better place, which means my heart's in a much better place. My soul's in a much better place. And it's nice to be able to see that, to have the evidence of that. And I'm going to go buy, I'm parked outside the art store, so I'm going to go buy myself a nice sketchbook, because they're half off right now. And I'm going to get some nice pencils, and I'm going to draw. It's going to be awesome. So that's what I'm going to go do. So I'm going to be grateful for that. And that's what I'm going to say to you guys. And just remember, I want to remind all of you that you should always remember that you can always choose to have a great full day.